South Africans are bearing the brunt of corruption and mismanagement at Eskom. Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan has blamed the two for the power utilities' financial troubles. Fingers have also been pointed at the, quote, badly designed, close quotes, Medupi and Kusile power stations. For more on this, I'm joined by energy expert from UCT's Energy Research Center, Hilton Trollip. Good evening, Mr. Trollip. Thanks very much for your time. Can we or should we really be blaming it on the fact that these two power stations haven't quite done what they were supposed to do by now? Is that where the problem lies?
Well, that is where the problem lies, that the power stations are not doing what they should have. But Vuyo, this problem's been building up for a long time. They started building Medupi in 2006, but that was only after, in 2001, Cabinet ordered Eskom to put independent power producers onto its system, and Eskom simply did not comply with that government policy until it became, by 2006, an emergency that we were running out of power. And then Eskom, behind closed doors, decided on these two really big power stations, Medupi and Kusile. And the first thing they did when they started building them, so the first thing is that we have Eskom simply not complying with government policy. Second, they start building Medupi, and they put out tenders for the boilers, which is a big component of the power station. And a company called Hitachi Africa wins the tenders for the boilers, except that Hitachi Africa is owned by 25% by a company called Chancellor House, which is 100% owned by the ANC. It turns out subsequently in a United States court that the tenders were given because of influence by the ANC over the tender process. So now we have Medupi being built with this company which got the job because of its connections, not because of the least cost and not because it has to perform. So Eskom is told that it doesn't have to comply with government policy, and now when this comes out in 2007 in the South African newspapers, nothing happens. So the other news that goes into the South African system is you can do corrupt business with Eskom and with impunity. We then start building these power stations, and the corruption starts creeping into the coal contracts. So coal between 2007 and 2015, the price doubles for the same amount of coal. The Medupi and Kusile contracts start running into problems. Costs double there too. So the price of electricity goes up 3 times over that period in real terms. So we're getting the same amount of electricity for 3 times the price, and corruption is now entrenched. Also, at the same time, between 2003 and 2015, the number of people working at Eskom producing the same amount of electricity goes from 30,000 to 47,000. It's what we call a perfect storm. And now, with these corrupt tenders and this whole situation that's been created of basically non-compliance with government directives and impunity, we start seeing the results when Medupi and Kusile actually start going into operation. So poor design, poor contracting, and this is built up for a long time, and it's going to take a long time to fix.
So very rich of the ANC to say its government and its president is being sabotaged, because if anybody has sabotaged South Africans, from what you've just said, it is in fact the ANC itself. But then I want to take you back to this Kusile and Medupi issue. In December, when we were promised that the situation is somewhat under control and everything is being done to make sure that the situation doesn't get worse, we knew for a fact that Medupi and Kusile won't be able to do what they were meant to do for all the reasons that you have just given. So on what then was this hope based? That things won't get to where we are today?
I think that people were just speaking with hope, pure hope. There was no evidence that anything had actually changed. Eskom is a huge organization with 47,000 employees. And once you have this culture of impunity entrenched and corruption, Eskom itself, one of the senior managers, Andrew Etzinger, said the other day that this is an endemic problem inside Eskom and it's going to take a long time to fix. So I think that at that stage the politicians were just saying what they thought people hoped to hear. And I think they were also hoping that with the changes that have been made at the top, and they have got some of the worst board members and corrupt people out, but you can't just change the people at the top now and change the situation. Far deeper changes have to be made, and I think the President has taken the first correct step, and that is to separate generation out from the national grid. The generation division itself, with all its coal-fired power stations, has got serious problems. But at least what we've got to do is we've got to take the transmission grid and get it away from the generating system, and then say to the transmission grid that it must source power, least cost power at a certain level of reliability. And in the short to medium term, that's still going to have to come from the existing Eskom plant. But as soon as we say that it can source power from IPPs, then IPPs can start stepping in. We've already got one of the most successful IPP programs in the world. It's called the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producing Program. We can build wind and solar power very quickly to start phasing out the coal-fired power stations. So it's not just Medupi and Kusile, which are badly constructed. All the other coal-fired power stations are reaching the end of their design life. So instead of spending money to try and keep them going, what we need to do is, as fast as we can, replace them with wind and solar and flexible supply. We need to phase them out. Work done by the research center I work at shows that already we can walk away from Kusile. It's the best thing to do, and in fact build wind and solar. And then there are 3 other power stations which at the moment, the mere coal to run them is more expensive than replacing them with wind and solar. And work by the CSIR has also shown this. So whilst there is this perfect storm, it is also an opportunity now to take these relics from the 20th century, namely large coal-fired power stations and monopoly organizations, and to replace them with new renewable energy and a much more competitive and efficient power sector. But we must save the grid. We've got to get it away from Eskom generation, and we've got to put it in a situation where it can buy power from the cheapest and most reliable sources.
Let's walk away from Kusile and Medupi. That's the view of Hilton Trollip, who is an energy expert from the UCT's Energy Research Center.